everybody. It's July 19th. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tacet Thoughts, the number one percussive podcast according to a 2018 fictitious survey. So it's me, your number one host, Caleb Pickering, coming to you from Harrisonburg, Virginia. With me, unfortunately, is Chris Nadeau again, coming at you from Fort Collins, Colorado. How's it going, Chris?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing all right.
Good.
With us today is a really cool guest, great performer, all-around cool guy. He's an accomplished performer and educator who has toured across U.S., Canada, and Europe. He presents clinics and workshops relating to both concert marching percussion, exploration of contemporary music for young students, and early-stage career development. Some of his highlights have been the debut of his new solo show, Elision, giving the premiere of Paul Lansky's newest work, for percussion anyways, Metal Light, at the PAS Rhythm Discovery Center, performing Jennifer Higdon's percussion concerto with the Eastman Wind Ensemble, and subbing with the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. He's a Yamaha Young Performing Artist and recently won the 2017 Percussive Art Society International Solo Artist Competition, the 2017 Black Swamp Percussion Solo Competition. He just took over 2017, and he was the co-principal of the World Percussion Group, which is ran, of course, by the internationally acclaimed duo Maraca 2. A recent graduate of the Eastman School of Music, with his master's, he performed as a part of their PASIC 2017 showcase concert. 2017 was a good year, and was a member of the All-Star International Percussion Ensemble in 2015. While at Eastman, he was awarded the prestigious Performer Certificate, Arts Leadership Certificate, John Beck Percussion Scholarship, and was a professional development grant for his work through the World Percussion Group. He was selected as an inaugural winner of the Eastman Artist Share Partnership, allowing him to lead a commissioning consortium for Matt Curley's new electroacoustic work for solo percussion, Decay No. 2. He completed his undergrad at Capital University in Ohio with a degree in music ed, and we could go on and on and on. But needless to say, his resume is quite impressive, especially for his age. So without further ado, welcome Cameron Leach. How's it going, man?
Good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, 2017 was a good year, but that was a mouthful.
Yeah.
Let's not do that again.
Yeah, I'm just on my head.
Every time, you write your bio, and then sometimes you read it out loud, and it doesn't sound good. That just happened. So I'm going to rewrite it now. That did not come off the tongue well. So anyways.
Man, that's good. Man, sometimes I have to go to the post office and do laundry and practice and write something. I'm like, man, I'm swamped. I got too much going on. Yeah, stay busy.
Oh,
that's
man.
Good. You had a concert real recently, didn't you, with your duo?
Yeah, so that was 2 nights ago. That would have been July 17th. So that was... Right now we're calling it just the Leach Peters duo. Probably going to change the name. That's super boring. But yeah, it was our first official show, and we did it up at Eastman on their summer concert series. So we had a training camp, if you want to call it that. We had 5 days of pretty intense rehearsals, and he was trying to balance that with playing with the Rochester Phil. But yeah, dude, the concert came off, 93% of the way. There were some things, and I had a moment, but it's fine. It was a really fun show, and a lot of his students came out, so it was really fun to be back at Eastman for that.
Man, that's rad. Do you have anything else coming up with him, that duo?
Not officially. We're going to start sending out some emails. We want to go tour somewhere that it's warm and nice. So we're trying to hit up the schools in the Carolinas in April. We think that those bookings might still be open for some recitals or something. So if not, then we have a couple other plans, maybe the Crane School at SUNY Potsdam in New York. So maybe some of those New York schools upstate.
Man, that's rad. Yeah, a lot of cool music. You just started, or I say just started, it's been going on for a little while now, your new project with David Skidmore, this commission I've seen pop around all over the place. Yeah,
I'm really into electroacoustic music, and I'm not into live processing so much. I just like to play the backtracks. It's stupid, simple, easy, and I just run a click to my ears from a wireless system. So, with the electroacoustic thing, I tend to go towards composers that have written that kind of music somewhat extensively before, so you kind of know that they understand what's going to work. And David, you know, I worked with Third Coast last summer as an intern, got to know him a little bit, and I heard Torched and Wrecked, which is one of his ensemble pieces, and it has optional electronic stuff. It's like a super intense driving piece, not terribly complicated, but I asked him for something along those lines, and he gave me his price point for doing that. It actually wasn't going to work out at first. He just said he didn't have time. Then he hit me back and just was like, hey, man, it opened up. Let's do it. And I was like, okay, I got to round the troops and do the thing. So I've been trying to really promote this, and the piece is going to be released August 15th. Anybody can buy in until August 14th. Shameless plug. But I got so much interest, like outright, that I went back to Dave and said, man, I wanted a 6 to 7 minute piece, but we have like 45 people that want to do this already. And I knew there'd be an attrition rate of 25%. But as it kept going, he said, all right, let's do a 12 to 15 minute, like massive piece. So I'm hoping that this will be sort of like a staple in the genre, whatever that means, of vibraphone and electronics. But I'm going to put this on my electronic show and in my recital program for this season. So I'm super stoked. That was really long-winded. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. That's great.
Moral of the story, I'm really stoked about this project, and I think Dave is like the right guy to write a piece that's rhythmic and intense.
Is the Dave Merrick trilogy how you got into the electroacoustic stuff?
Oh, man. No, I actually think Dave Merrick's other piece, A Greek Tragedy, that's a whole other story, right? But I just like heard it on his website, and I was like, that is a crazy sounding piece of music. And I just learned it. I learned it in a day, and then I rescored the piece. Actually, I rescored it first in a day, learned it in a day, recorded it that night because my buddy was going out of town who did my videos, and I just sent it to Dave that night. It was like April 2015. And then that's sort of what started Dave and I's relationship, was me sending him this horribly put together video of this piece that I had barely learned, you know?
Man.
Anyways.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, your videos always come out really, really well. Like the Black Swamp one that you won with, and like I think Tantrum and a few other pieces. It's just like, man, the video quality is always so high.
Yeah.
Do you have a friend that does that for you, or do you hire out, or?
Yeah, it's the same dude that's been with me since the beginning of all this stuff. His name's Matthew Bonder. I kind of scooped him up, like, and didn't really know what he could, like, that he did this stuff. He just like, yeah, I do videos. Okay, sure. So he was a freshman. I think I was a junior, or maybe a senior. I don't even remember. And he started doing stuff for me. We kind of grew together, and now he's like a superstar. He's in a band called the Lost Boys Collective. They just released a video called The Yellow Wallpaper, and it's like metal music if you're into that kind of thing. He shot this music video that is insane. It's like so artsy, and he's colored all the shots, So what we do is low budget compared to what he is actually into, and he's a genius, man. And then my audio guy back then was Matthew Heim, this guy I went to school with, who has since moved to Georgia. So we kind of make do with the audio now with Matthew Bonder. So we can kind of do everything together now. But anyways.
Yeah, that's cool. I think all my video editing and recording abilities I've just picked up from Casey over the years.
Yeah.
Always, on one hand, I'm always like, yeah, I want to make this really good product. And then I like look at a professional person that makes videos for a living. I'm just like, oh, there's no way I can hit that standard by myself.
It's like you and me trying to do that, because we both do our own video and audio. And it's very amateur. I mean, all my stuff's just things I've learned off of Google. And I've sat there and thought, like, man, I'd really like to get into the video editing and really into the audio editing. But when you start looking at, like, the professional side of it, like, that there's a reason why, like, when I look at my videos compared to looking at Cameron's, it's like, well, yeah, hell yeah, his stands out way nicer because he's got the guys that are, like, really into it, that know what they're doing. I'm not going to get that expertise level in 3 different subjects at once. So that's a good point to bring out right there, is making the connections with people that are in those other art-related fields. Like, because everybody knows somebody that has a camera or somebody that's interested in audio recording, hopefully. I think about that all the time when I'm trying to record here at CSU, and I'm just like, I totally should have just gone down the street to what's his name with the video. It's like, we have at CSU a guy that used to work as an LA film producer, and I've never once asked him to come record for me. I was like, I'm sitting here stealing my wife's camera, and he's got everything he needs, and I don't even think to send him the email, and he's always been like, yeah, if you ever want any help, just let me know. I was like, I got it.
Yeah, I mean, and that brings up a good point too. It's not cheap. Like, I mean, even this is like a good friend of mine, and many thousands of dollars have gone into our projects, and I'm not someone I'm not rolling in the money. I am very broke from Eastman. So yeah, I mean, it's an investment that you make, and that's why, like, I'm not recording things. Like, I would love to record every single piece I play. And it'd be great to put something out every 3 weeks, but it's just not realistic at all. So sometimes you get like the super average one angle concert shot from a cell phone that you post on Instagram, and then every 6 months I go in to do a recording session. But yeah, and then I think, like, once you start working together with someone, it's nice to keep the same person if you can, because you guys learn how to work together. And like, we figured out now a system for when we record, if we are going to make cuts in a piece, how we go about like identifying just the takes. I don't know, like, there's just a flow to the whole thing. And if you work with new people and you have to brief them on your process, it's hairy. I tried to work with someone new, and it just didn't work out once. So I was like, this is why you stay loyal, and this is why you stick with your same dude. So anyways.
Man, yeah, that outsourcing, I always think the same thing with video and also with marketing. Like, I think Brandon Arve's doing a pretty good job with it, and he's one of the rare few that's like, because you see all these people that pop out just like, all right, I gotta market myself, and it's just like, yeah, but people go to school for this. Like, some people make like their whole living off. This isn't something you're gonna like, okay, I made my Instagram, I'm good to go, I can market, I'm gonna get all the shows. So man, yeah, the few times I've had people help me with marketing, it just helps so much. And it's the same thing with video. Like, if you have those people like in your career field or in your life that are good at something, man, I think ask for help. I think we're always a little too proud sometimes to like, no, I can do it myself, I got it. Right. I mean, why not? Let's all help each other out. Big hippie commune, as Chris Nadeau lives in over there in Colorado.
Oh man, taking shots.
That's all this is. This is just my hour a day of shooting stuff at Chris Nadeau.
I don't even think we're actually friends.
It's a hairy situation. Yeah, you just recently got, I might miss one. So you got Sabian endorsement, a Black Swamp endorsement. Mm-hmm. Are there any others that I left off? I feel like there's one upcoming that I have my money down on, but we'll see in a few weeks or months.
You're probably right about that. I've got a phone call with that person after this actually, but instead of being cryptic, okay. So yeah, the first one that I got was Black Swamp, and so like the Yamaha Young Performing Artist thing is not like an endorsement. Mm-hmm. It was just like you win the competition. There's like 10 of you from different instruments, and you get some benefits from it, but you're definitely like not an artist. It helps to kind of jumpstart your relationship, and I would encourage anybody to apply for that competition. People at Yamaha, John Whitman, Jalissa, Jennifer, their artist department is amazing. Everybody in the company is amazing, just the greatest people. But so that's not an endorsement, but it was like, okay, well now I'm sort of affiliated with the company, so maybe I should think about endorsements or something. And so I just started asking around, like, yeah, how do you get into this? And people are like, just kind of email them and you send them your stuff. And I was like, oh man, it's just like everything else, management, bookings, you just like randomly, things just happen. So I contacted Black Swamp. I talked to Todd Meehan, and I was like, asking him these questions. And he said, just reach out to Black Swamp, man. You won their competition. Just see what happens, And so I did it and started a conversation with Tim Church, and it worked out. I was like, oh, wow, this is how it goes. So I emailed, Sabian, because I've always used Sabian products just since day one, and that just kind of panned out. And And then there's one other one, but I don't know if I should say it. Maybe I'll say it now. All right, so Malitech.
I knew it. I win $1,000.
Yeah, so Malitech and I are working right now on an endorsement, and they're sort of. It sounds like that it might be in a different. Like I might not be on the same level as obviously like Burrit is.
Right.
But they don't really have a system like that. They don't really have like a tier system. So they're trying to, sort of figure that stuff out right now. But I've been talking to Lee and things, and so we will definitely cut this out if it's not official by the time it's released. But
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I'm really stoked, man, because Malitech was always like that boutique company. When I started percussion, you got to get Malitech mallets, and I was like, okay, whatever.
It's a really funny thing because like I remember being like an eighth grader in middle school, and my percussion teacher telling me I had to buy mallets, and every one of us, like we all bought the Michael Burrit mallets. I didn't know a single person that wasn't their first mallets at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. I mean, it was just like, it just seemed natural, like, I got Concerto 14 mallets. Those are my first mallets ever. And then people just, I started trying like IP stuff and Vic stuff. No offense to them. I just something wasn't sitting right with it. And then I went to the Stevens camp and he talked about how the mallets are constructed. And I was like, it makes a lot of sense. That's why I like them, so. I think the endorsement game is like a natural outgrowth of what you've always done. It's not like you're going out and endorsement shopping, which is the wrong way to do it, and companies pick up on that super fast.
That's cool you're doing the Beatle. I kind of had my suspicions. I'm on that one as well. That's not announced yet either.
Okay.
But, I really like that company. And obviously it's easy for me to see it out here because we talked about this last night because we had, Delaney was she did their internship. But out here, like the pines that they use, like I see on a daily basis. So it's kind of really interesting to see it's interesting and really cool to see the efforts that they're making of both reforestation and just using the unusable wood that they say out here. There's several hikes that I go on that are you walk around for a bit and you just see it's just like destroyed pine trees everywhere.
Wow.
And you really get like the sense that it wasn't just like a little thing that happened. It was a huge infestation that happened for a while. So that and the pads are actually just really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and they make a marimba pad, and I tried that out last summer at the Harlan Marimba Festival. And I was like, wow, like what is this thing, And I bought a marimba pad off of someone that was like a weird thing. It fell apart. It was like terribly constructed. Yeah. But the Beatle stuff looked great, and then they make sleigh bells. And they're like high-end sleigh bells.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Oh, man, I'm going to use them on my next Christmas gig. That's what I'm going to ask for. That's my first investment, are sleigh bells.
Yeah, man. Yeah, their stuff is so good. And with the endorsements, I feel like there's this weird gap of like you're really young and you're just like, okay, I got to get an endorsement. I got to get one. And then you hit the phase of like, no, I'm good. And then you get older, and then they just kind of happen.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I know people that have sent in the emails and like applied, like, okay, I want a head endorsement. Send one to, Remo, Evans, Aquarian. Just like, those dudes all know each other.
Yeah.
Like, if you see like, okay, Chris Nadeau sent me an email. Oh, he sent me one too. Yeah, me as well. And then it's like, okay, this isn't like somebody that's like interested in our product. They're just interested in having that CV line, or they want free gear, or it's just totally not the way to go. I mean, like I have companies I'm just trying to get my foot in the door, just because I like their product. Like I think they have a great product. And I want to use their stuff. But yeah, it's definitely not. I mean, if anybody thinks like, okay, I'm gonna hop on with I don't know, say Pearls because I really need a marimba. Just like, yeah, but they don't just give out marimbas. Like, you're not just gonna hop on board and like, oh yeah, you're there. Okay, here's your marimba. Unless you're like that upper echelon of people, of performers, you're not gonna get that level of free stuff. And it's not what it's about.
And it's still like those days are kind of gone anyways, even for these upper echelon guys. And that's what people don't. I think people don't realize that enough. Like an endorsement, you're still paying. Every product you get, you're paying for. I mean, maybe a cymbal company will send you a couple free ones up front, or maybe Beatle will send you something or whatever, but that's not the norm. And I had to get it through my head too. I was thinking as a concerto soloist, right? Like you go around to different places and you have your tech writer and your requirements that you have for the venue and the presenter. And it's not like Pearl Adams is going to ship you your drums for the gig. That's not going to happen. And it just doesn't happen anymore. Like you're going to play whatever the heck they get for you at the gig. And if it's a destroyed marimba X or a destroyed marimba Y, you're going to play it.
Yeah.
So anyways, I had to get that through my head, and thinking about, whether you pursue a company that has drums and marimbas or whether you pursue a company that might have a better marimba but doesn't have drums associated with it, wink, wink. Just having the company with the drums, you're only going to get artist pricing on things. You're not going to get drums shipped to you to your gigs. So I think like the mystery of this needs to be like broken open, and people need to learn more about it, But a lot of people don't want to talk about it because I don't know.
Yeah, it's this weird taboo where you're like I've asked Casey about like, hey man, how'd you get these endorsements? And you're just like, yeah, for me they just kind of worked out. And then there's this weird awkward moment of like, so do I just like send them an email, or is there like a password that you have to like knock on a door, or
exactly, like some of them won't put their artist relations emails on their site. Like some of them just advertise it. Right. And I think like Remo wrote a blog about it, about like seeking an endorsement, or maybe it was Sabian. I'm like, oh, that's great advice, But some of them, it's like if you don't have this person's email, it's just going to you're not going to send it to info@company.com and get a response. So it's weird. It's a weird game.
Yeah, that's okay. I'd rather be doing this than whatever else. I don't think there is anything else from me. I think if music doesn't work out, it's over. I'm just gonna retire.
Baristas. Remember, we got the backup plan.
Oh yeah. I'll open a bar. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah.
So just a little bit on, because I know this is something that comes up. Chris won, him and his duo partner Anthony, a good friend of ours, won the 2012 SoCal Marimba duo. Was it 2012? Yeah.
2012.
You've won the PASIC one and the Black Swamp one. I competed in Italy, lost, so I'm the loser of the three. But
that's all right.
So
Cameron beat 2017 Black Swamp, so.
Oh yeah, that's okay. 2017 was the year of Cameron, I think.
Oh gosh.
So, do you have any general thoughts? I mean, people ask me this all the time that want to, like, they either want to submit to Black Swamp or they want to go do this competition or that one or apply for this PASIC scholarship. I feel like a lot of people just get turned off by like the competition prep versus, because prepping for a competition versus prepping for like just a degree recital, they're just totally different in my opinion. But do you have any thoughts on your prep for especially competitions or big shows?
Yeah, the first thing I'll say about competitions is I hate them, and I only really did these competitions that I did. Well, I'll say this: most of them, except for the PASIC competition, were online things. Because you're in full control of what happens. And so that was the reason I pursued those. And I always told myself, like, I'm not doing a competition, and this might be the wrong attitude, but I'm not going to go and do a competition if I really don't think I have a shot. So I always started with, like, online competitions to see, whether people like the rep I played or whatever. And those things always ended up going pretty well. And so I thought, okay, it's finally time. I'm going to go and do the PASIC competition. But the online competition is really just like, you get a good cut of a video, and you really in that like medium of delivery, you really want to have a high quality video. They say that it doesn't influence them, but it influences them. Yeah. The first thing I heard when I picked up the phone from Tim Palmer saying, "Hey, do you want to be one of the principals in World Percussion Group?" was, "Man, we loved your video quality." And I was like, "Oh, how was the playing?" No, but honestly, like. That is a huge factor in the video thing. So people need to invest money if they're going to do that. For the PASIC competition, man, it's never been more of a mind game for me than prepping for that. Even though I knew most of that rep already, it was and Chris, you could maybe speak to this too, man. Like, and Caleb with the Italy thing. Oh my God! Like, trying to sit and play the same music for 3 months and just make it like a little bit better and a little bit better. I hated it. I can't, and I'm not going to say this, but I'll never do another competition. I thought about Trump this year, and I didn't even apply because I said I'm not going through it again. So I have more thoughts, but I just want to hear what you guys have to say about this.
I felt the same thing, actually. I came really close to trying to apply for Trump as well, and then because there's a guy up here in the northern Colorado area named Michael Karp that actually did it 2 years ago last year, and he just like seeing because his performance was incredible. The stuff I saw him play. He came down here at Colorado State, did a concert, and it just blew me away. And like we talked to him afterwards, and he was just like, "Yeah, I've been playing this forever. Been really working on the fine details of getting it down there." And he goes, and I was sitting there thinking, like, man, that guy's going to at least be a finalist. And he comes back, and he was just like, "Yeah, don't play American music at that contest." And yeah, like I mean, so there was like the political side of it, obviously, and I know Caleb has a little bit to talk about that if he wants. But like, yeah, I remember. We did the SCIMC kind of on a whim. I remember my duo partner and I met Lynn Vartan at PASIC, and she just got to talking to us, and we had just started a duo. Whether Zader likes to claim I guess he does have his hand in it. He says that he thought we played well together. I think he wanted that extra 30 minutes for a longer lunch, so he joined half of our lessons together.
Smart.
But we started doing the duo, and we were at that time, just like everybody else in the world, we were playing octobones.
Right.
And we'd also learned like a Franz Liszt arrangement, a couple other drummy pieces and stuff. But like she was like, "Oh, you guys should come to our competition and try out." And so we kind of toyed around with the idea of it. We did some recordings to send in for the first round. It wasn't expensive at the time. I remember how much it was, but we just recorded 2 pieces and sent them. And I remember just that, like the weekend that we were trying to get like the recordings of the pieces was the worst weekend of my entire life. Yeah. I remember being so mad. I remember there was that one rep that we were playing, and we got to the very final 30 seconds of octobones, and I had the mistake where I was just like, this one's perfect. I was like, oh my God, this one's so good. And I just looked over at Tony, and he looks at me, he's like, no. And I just completely tanked within the last 10 seconds. Like the ending of it was the worst thing in the world. And I remember falling to the ground just going, I hate it. I quit. I don't ever want to do it again. We actually wound up sending the very first recording we made, and they were like, yeah, this is great. Come on in. And so we got that. But like I remember our whole thought process was neither one of us had been to California. If we get to go, it'll be cool. We're just going to go for the trip. Winning was never in our mind, especially when we got there and we saw at the time Escape 10 was there in the competition, and I was like, well, they're going to win. And there was this amazing duo from Hong Kong that was Marimba and Hammer Dulcimer that was like they were like, and I still keep up with them too. It's the Par duo, and they play some of the coolest stuff, and everything's either original or their own arrangements. And that was probably, I think that's still one of the most unique like instrument mixes I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. But I remember we got there, we made it to the semifinal round. We just got to hang out in California. We're like, yeah, this is awesome. We made a trip out of it. We went to he had family in San Diego. We just met them and hung out at the beach for like 3 days. And that was it. The competition was like the icing on top of the cake for us. And we played. We saw the other people play, which my number one advice was always afterwards is like, don't watch other people at the competition. That might seem petty, but man, if you want to get in your own head, watch other people. Because as soon as we watched everybody, I was like, wow, we lost. Yeah. But I remember we got that. They gave us the announcement that we had advanced to the final round with another duo from Oklahoma City, and we were like, oh, we're in the finals. And the funniest part was we realized we had no more mallet duets, really, because we didn't plan on making it that far. So we had a little bit more time to add another piece. So we're like, okay, we'll do octobones again. We'll do the Franz Liszt again. And we're like, everything else at this point we've learned was drums. And we're like, oh, crap. And so we're like, we have that Gene Kaczynski piece as one that technically has a marimba in it. And then like Tony was like, we can do that one. And I'm like, that's definitely a multi-duet. And it was like that's 90% drums, and the marimba is just kind of a cool little feature in there. And so I remember we did the improv section, and instead of doing it on drums, we kind of came up with like this split marimba thing. And we just went up there and played it, and we were like, we're going to play a multi-duet in the final round of a mallet competition. And the funniest thing was at the end of that, when they announced that we had won, and we were just both completely in shock. We're like, I can't believe we just won this.
Yeah.
Bobo was one of the chief judge at that one. He comes up, and he's just like, I love that at a mallet competition, you guys played these 2 mallet pieces wonderfully, and then you just bring out all these drums and play a drum duet. He's like, that was such like a punk rock move that I couldn't not vote for it.
That's awesome.
So that might not be a fair thing to say out loud to the other people that competed and actually played mallet duets, but it was really funny to us.
Yeah.
Now, I would definitely say anyone that's trying to go down the performance path, I think you should do at least one competition, just because it's such a different way of preparing.
It's almost like a necessary evil. I don't know anybody that's ever won competitions that are like, I love competitions. I'm all about competitive music, because that's kind of redundant. Like, that's kind of against the point of what music should be. Mm-hmm. But I think the best example I heard was Katarzyna Michka talked when we met at the UNT Keyboard Symposium. She talked about doing all the competitions in the beginning just to get herself out there. Like, it was over in Europe for her. It was like winning money recording rights. She won her first marimba that way, and just getting some getting some publicity. And then she just stopped. And then she talked about how her entire preparation of music changed. And she talked about there would be a certain piece she would never play ever again in her entire life, and that she hates that piece, but she only used it for competition. I'm 90% positive she was talking about Merlin.
Yeah.
But just her disdain she seems to have when people play it for her is kind of obvious. But her recording is amazing, and to me that was my favorite recording to listen to. And I was wanting to ask her about that piece, and then she was just like, "Yeah, I'll never, ever, ever again touch that." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But that there is that kind of almost necessary evil if you really want a chance to get yourself out there. If you can get out there and not even necessarily win, just to meet the people that you can that are also going to be performing or judging at that circuit. It's just a nice way to put your face in the crowd.
Yeah. I mean, when I was in Italy, I met Gloria, who Cameron knows from World Percussion Group. She won the vibraphone category. But then I met Tyler Tolles, who just got his DMA at FSU. I remember we were there and we were having food or wine or whatever. He's like, "Yeah, you see that Air Force job or whatever that opened up?" And he's just like, "Yeah, I think I'm going to apply to it." And now he's currently, as we speak, in boot camp because he won that gig. But he didn't, like me, we both made it to semifinals, but we didn't make it to the finals. That one competition is not your measure of musicianship, because Tyler definitely went there, hit the semifinals, played great. I saw his whole set. Comes back to the States, wins the Air Force gig, and now he's basically set for life if he wants to be. Right. It's just man. But everybody should do one, I think, if you want to go down that path.
Yeah, and not to beat a dead horse on this, but I think for me the competition thing was an outgrowth. It was like a necessity. I knew at that point I want to be a soloist, and so you start asking people, and I talked to Colin Curry, somewhat regularly. When I would see him, I would always go to his shows in the States, and I picked him up. I remember he was at Eastman 2 years ago, or about a year and a half ago, and I picked him up not from the airport, somewhere. I drove him back from the gym or something, and I was in the car, and I just said, tell me what do I have to do to get noticed? And he was like, well, in Europe it's competitions. He's like, they have the BBC Young Musician thing, and which I think just happened. And he's like, if you could find a young artist competition. And so I'm just digging around, and that's how I kind of came across these competitions. Definitely the Yamaha one I found that way. But and so I started to think well, maybe I have to do competitions. And then once I did the PASIC one, I said, I'll never do this again. I hated this. And the PASIC competition, no offense to PAS, it's not a humongous deal. It's not like you're getting management or you're getting tour bookings or anything like that out of it. It gives you good notoriety in the States, but in Europe they don't really care. And management companies don't care. Management companies are only going to care about Trump or Luxembourg or those European competitions. So I I think I kind of made a commitment after that to say I know my career goals of being a soloist, and I want to do it without competitions now. Like I want everything to be word of mouth, social media, and me doing it myself, because I just think it sucked like the musical life out of me, and I still like haven't recovered. So, anyways, that's like those are like my thoughts on competitions, man, and the prep is a whole other thing. So
yeah.
I think the nutshell for me is the performance is fun. Like actually doing the performing is fun. The preparation is life draining and exhausting and the most nerve wracking. I'd rather record every single day than prepare for competition.
Yeah.
Like because because I get in my own head, like where recording, the only critique I have to worry about is my own, and it gets really bad that way. But then like I put my own critique in other people's like mouths when I'm like getting ready for competition, and I just like there's like the most self-deprecating, just worst experience ever. I don't think I have the psyche to go through it again.
Yeah, and like you, one of you guys said, like I watched. I had seen Sam. I mean, I know Corey Fika and Sam Chan, and we were the 3 finalists, right? And so I've been on tour with Sam Chan and the World Percussion Group, and I'm watching him play all this stuff, like all this Ravel on marimba and these Bach duos, and I'm like, oh my god, I am screwed. I have no chance. And I know Corey, and I'm like looking at Corey's YouTube videos because I went to Chosen Vale for the first time, and I was like, had no idea what was going on. I was at Capitol, music ed boy, like didn't have any concept of concert music. So I go to Chosen Vale, and Corey plays Reflections on the Nature of Water, the whole thing, and I'm like, holy crap. Then I see his velocities recording on YouTube, just like so perfect, and I'm just so scared, and so I stood outside the room, and Sam was playing right before me, I think. Yeah, he was. And I'm just listening to it going, I'm done, And then I go on stage and I play, and it went well, but yeah, don't listen to the other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man. So yeah, a little bit about this kind of competitions, but what about because you're doing a lot of solo shows? How do you? Because you have 3, right? Kind of that you've picked from. There's Elision and 2 others that you kind of change the rep to fit your audience.
Yeah, and those are kind of make-believe shows. Like I haven't booked those. I put them in there for presenters to see that I'm thinking in that way. But that's all going to change too. Like I said, screw it. I'm going to have a themed recital program, and then I'm going to have Elision, which is always going to be fully electronic. But yes, I do have 3 shows right now, but it's not real.
No, I think that's great to think about your audience that way.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely, somebody was doing a recital and they played, it was for like a public outreach, but they played all the heaviest marimba lit. And you could tell the audience was just like, this is awful.
Yeah.
Like you got to cut them a break at some point. I don't want to hear an hour of contemporary marimba lit only.
Nope.
I think that's such a great point to make too, because I the funniest realization I ever had of that was through my wife, and we were in California when our duo got invited back to play as the legacy artists. And their guest artist, I won't name just to be nice. I thought the concert was great. I was super excited to see him play. And then I look over 45 minutes into it at my wife, and I'm just like, isn't this great? And she's just passed out, like just emotionally drained. And she was just like, I'm so sorry. That was just, she's like, I love marimba. That was awful. And I was just like, huh? I guess because like it was very contemporary. It was very intellectual music.
Yeah.
And it's like I had the understanding to appreciate it, but she knew nothing of the backstory. She knew nothing of like the design or anything towards the instrument, and to her it was just the worst.
Yeah,
so bad for feeling that way. But it kind of hit me. I was like, well, she's one of the only non-percussionists in this audience. Everybody else loved it, but we think about it as like if I'm going to go out and I'm going to play all of the Reflections on the Nature of Water, the Khan variations, and like Lord forbid, like After Syrinx 2, like stuff like that for like just a general crowd, you're going to lose them so fast.
Yeah.
Picking your rep for your audience is massively important. You maybe put one of those pieces in there to introduce them to that. But good Lord, if you're going to play for like an elementary school, throw some throw some fun like Ivan Trevino in there, some Michael Burridge, stuff like that can be like challenging or anything for them, but at the same time something they can put their foot to the beat and have fun.
Yeah.
Not, I feel like you're just going to lose the audience and any chance to actually introduce them to something more.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I think I came to that realization maybe like right before I got to Eastman, or when I did get to Eastman. I just started to think about like the music that I like to play. And I think I'm lucky in some ways. Like some people love to play Reflections and Syrinx and all these like crazy tunes. And I love them, man, but the music I want to play is like I always associate it with Dave Merrick. Like Dave Merrick writes real heady music, really hard to play, but it's so groovy and you can get behind it. And I think about like that is rewarding for me, and it's really rewarding for the audience. And I will throw in Burt variations, and I think it's a decently accessible piece, but not all of it, and it's a little long-winded. But the audience is going to support you if you surround that by buttonwood or like, something where they can go, oh, wow. And, so, yeah, the rep is hugely important. You got to satisfy your audience and satisfy yourself. And think about gear needs and think about flow of your program and all that stuff. And that's why, like you're saying, Caleb, like, I had these 3 shows and I sorted them into acoustic, somewhat like half and half, and then fully electronic. I did that because of thinking of gear needs. Yeah. But now I'm at a stage where I'm saying, you know what, if someone wants me to play a fully acoustic recital, I'll do it, but I'm not going to advertise it because I don't want to go play a fully acoustic recital. I want to go play with electronics always on some level. So,
yeah, the electronics are my favorite pieces. Have always been the ones with backing track. It's just so rewarding, and man, it just makes it so much different. I'm doing right now working on Attraction, the Sejourné vibe thing. Man, it's so fun. It's just so much fun to practice, and it's like fun to listen to, and it's fun to play, and there's just no complaints. And yeah, the middle part gets a little out for like your traditional audience, but no complaints so far. Everyone seems to really enjoy it.
Well, I think it's also just kind of adds the ensemble feel to a solo performance.
Sure.
That was the one thing that I really enjoyed. My favorite, I mean, I haven't done a whole lot of electronics. It's something I'm just now getting into, but my favorite one I've done was the Lindroth bell plates. And that was like the one thing, again, my wife, who is like non-musician, was able to point out. She's like, yeah, it's fun watching you play, but then you're sitting there looking at like wood blocks, metal, and like pipes and stuff, and now you're like, okay, this is going to be weird, but then you have all this other stuff to accompany it, which makes it more accessible.
Yeah, and I think like along those lines, for me, like I have a couple like first loves. My first one is drum corps, and so it's like you're either on or you're not on, and it's like playing clean with a quad line. So I'm not a snare line, screw snare drums, but. So that's that feel for me, and that's why I always make my own click tracks to go with the pieces, or cue tracks if there's no actual tempo to it. And then I've always, after seeing Colin Curry play, I said I want to be a concerto soloist, which that's a make-believe career. And the only way you can feel like you have an ensemble backing you is to have electronics if you don't have an ensemble. Yeah. So it just like made a lot of sense, I think, for me. And it's also like being in a recording studio. You can't not play with the click, or the audience is going to know. So I don't know, man. I think I always encourage people to do that, and that's why I keep wanting to commission for that, because I just think we need more like master works in that genre. Right now we have like a lot of small ones and a lot of not so good ones. People that don't know how to really write with electronics. So I think we have a necessity there. I'm off my soapbox now.
Yeah. Casey's been, his electroacoustic works have been blowing up more and more. He just released, I think we're both working on it, a cool gadget, the tambourine one.
Yeah. I haven't started, but I'm going to.
I'll tell you what, I talked to him about this, and he was relieved that I had this complaint. I was like, yeah, man, I can play like 20 minutes of tambourine, and then like my hand's done for an hour. Like I turn into like the arthritic, it just cramps so bad. So he was just like, yeah, I'm glad to hear that I was not the only one struggling with that. But yeah, some of those, man, I agree with you're talking about playing with click tracks, and I have one snare and tape piece that I finished last year that's about to start selling.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, writing for, or it's not snare drum and tape, but writing for any instrument and tape and getting just the click track to work is somewhat difficult. It's way more difficult than I thought it would be to implement two-way audio, so you hear a click but the audience doesn't. And then eventually I just gave in and I was just like, screw it, we're putting audio cues in the tape, and you can follow along.
Yeah, and I'm so not insecure. Well, I would say I am insecure about the fact that like I want it to come across perfectly to the audience. And when you see somebody, let's say like the bouncy ball piece that I do, I don't know if you guys know that one.
Yeah.
That piece has no cues in it, and you just have to listen to the track. And I said, screw this. Like, how am I going to convince them that I know what I'm doing when I don't know what I'm doing?
Right.
You know? So I like, and I'm going to make a video about doing this soon. It's like, I had my little iPhone mic and I'm watching the space on the screen go by on the waveforms. And I went 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2. And I would count down every event in a different tempo and just try to fill that space with enough count so that I know when I hit 0, the next event happens, you know? And then you have to buy a wireless system, and it's like $1,200. But it was the best investment I've ever made, and you can travel with it easy. You can take it on airplanes. I take it in my carry-on bag.
Wow.
You know,
that's cool.
So, but learning how to do all that stuff was just an outgrowth of like necessity, I think.
Yeah, man, there's so many good composers that I know they could write for this electroacoustic medium, but to learn the DAW software and how to like write in like Logic or Pro Tools or, man, I'm sure that we could have so many cool pieces, but yeah, that's just a whole nother, I mean, it's like going back to the video editing. You can Google and learn how to do that stuff, but it's hard to get to that upper tier of learning how to run those DAWs and write in them.
Yeah.
Man, that's kind of a bummer. Sorry.
That's the thing. It's like you're not gonna ask like someone like a comp major who's never done it. You're not gonna be like, yeah, man, I'll pay you $500 for that. No, because like I'm not going to make that investment into somebody if I've never seen them do it. And that's no offense to them, but it just kind of is what it is, you know?
Yeah. That happened with Andrew Ling. He commissioned me to write this snare and tape thing. I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And then I spent basically 2 months learning how to work Logic.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did it because now the time invested, I know how the software works and I know how to use it. But man, yeah, that was a serious 2 months of figuring out how to write and how to work this whole program that was totally foreign.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting point. There's a lot of like resource growing out there too. I know like Matt Jordan does a lot of clinic work with doing some of the sound off software. There's like the Arcadia Symposium that has topics with that, because I know the adjunct professor here at CSU, Shiloh Stroman, is growing to be like a borderline wizard with some of that stuff, whether it's doing like some of the commissioned work he's done as a soloist, playing some of the stuff he's done as like a drum set artist, working. He does a lot of show writing for like high school programs, especially here in Colorado. The indoor game is like massive. Like every school here has an indoor program. I was kind of caught off guard by that because in Texas, there's quite a few that do, but it's not that big of a thing. Here, like everybody has an indoor winter drumline program.
Wow.
He writes a lot for that, and then he's on staff working with Battalion Drum Corps as well as Rise Indoor, and so he's constantly doing the front ensemble sound works. And I think his big thing is main stage, but things that take me like an hour to figure out, he'll walk up and like push a button and everything's bam ready.
Yeah.
But he talks a lot about like finding like that is a resource that people are starting to realize people need especially in our medium, that people are really starting to step forward to kind of present. And I think Matt Jordan's always the big one I think of.
Yeah.
So.
Chris and I did our undergrad together. And while we were there, I would say 99%, I think it's still the same, 99% of the people that go through are music ed majors. And you got your undergrad in music ed as well.
Yeah.
And there's always this, at the other schools I've been to here in JMU and UNLV and just where I've visited, there's always kind of this separation of like, okay, I'm music ed, so that means I'm gonna become a band director. And it's just like, well, that's not how it always plays out.
Yeah.
And like, you went to I think you were a really cool guy because you went to Capital University, which is a good school. But yeah, you just got a music ed degree, and then you went to Eastman. And I feel like a lot of people start the ed degree with that mindset of like, oh, well, I can't do this because, you know, I only have an ed degree, which is absolutely not true. Can you speak any to that, of those people that maybe are getting that ed degree but want to perform more?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is like the reason you get into music has a lot to do with it. For me, I was a drumline guy in high school. I joined choir late, and I was like, I just had a deep voice, so the choir teacher wanted me. I'm hanging out with him tonight, by the way. I'm excited. I haven't seen him in a while. Anyways, but so I joined choir, and I was like, oh my gosh, music, real music. I'm not just hitting drums. And I was never like a big concert band person in high school, just because like I just wanted to be I wanted to be playing a set of quads always. So I said, like, you know, okay, I guess I'm going to go to music school. So I learned how to play marimba then, because I had never played a mallet instrument, really. So I learned Virginia Tape as my first piece. It's hysterical. And I come into school and I just said, well, I had good band directors, so I guess I'll be a music ed major. You know, that was like my thought process. They inspired me. And so people are like, why do you want to do music? And then I was like, well, I want to inspire the next generation. Like, they inspired me. I mean, it was like a noble pursuit. And if that's your gig, I mean, that was my gig. It still is my gig. But that was my only thought. I never thought I would ever perform on a stage. And so I got to school, my first studio class, and sorry, this is kind of going down a rabbit hole here, but my first studio class, we had to play these out pieces from this Nick Petrella book of multi-solos. I don't know if you guys know this book. Yeah. And it was a piece for snare drum and suspended cymbal, or two suspendeds. And our professor, it was his way of like either chewing you out or praising you your first time. Like, you either made music with those instruments or you didn't. Or why did you set up your bongos this way, right? So I'm playing these suspended cymbals and these snare drums. And I'll never forget how much I shook. I had never been nervous before in my life. I didn't even know that you could be nervous for a performance. And I'm going like this. It was like, ding, and I'm not even trying to hit the cymbal, right? I'm like, oh my God, I'll never play. I'll never perform. And so that kind of scarred me. And then I bombed my first jury on marimba. So I'm like, I'm a band director. That's me. That's all I can do. So fast forward, and I saw Colin Curry play, and that was the day I changed my life. Like, in that instant, it was the craziest thing. Someone said, I said, like, what does he do? Like, why is he here? Why is he at my school? And they're like, yeah, he tours the world and performs. And it was like, ding. And I went out that night. Not went out, I was 20. But I went over to this place called the Rusty Bucket. And this whole situation, I won't give any details, but this guy was there. He said, so what do you want to do? Like, he was a music, he's like an educator in the area, band director. And he said, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to be a performer. I want to tour the world. It was the day I had seen Colin, you know, it was just on my mind. And he said, no, what do you really want to do? And I got pissed. And that was the moment. I mean, like, that day changed my whole trajectory of everything. So I would say, back to your question, Caitlin, I would say for people that are hesitant, screw that. Like, screw everybody around you. Being an ed major, the only thing it does is give you more skills and more certification than the next person. It takes more of your time, but if you're committed, you're going to put the time in. If you love something, you're going to put the time in. And the best performers I see are ed majors in most cases, because learning how to teach helps you play better yourself. And you develop communication skills, which are invaluable on stage and in networking, yada, yada, yada. So I think ed majors actually have a distinct advantage in a lot of ways, and performance majors don't get a lot of that stuff. No offense to any performance majors. So
I would agree with that comment. The one thing, because we, like, again, at Commerce, it was roughly 99% ed majors. Mm-hmm. And our studio was really strong when we were there. Like, Zader had a really heavy focus on making sure that pedagogy was not just knowing how to teach the instrument, but knowing how to really play the instrument too. And so I felt like everybody was pretty well rounded. But here at CSU, the interesting thing I've seen is there was a pretty good split of ed majors and performance majors, and that was kind of a culture shock to me. But the most interesting thing was the ed program is pretty hard to get into for the undergrads here at CSU. Like, you have to go through an interview process, an audition process. You have to do multiple checkpoints to make sure that they're still satisfied with what you're doing as an ed major. Stay in. So there's some people that don't actually make it through the ed program. And one of the big things they have on their mind is that if you're an ed major here, that is your first love in music, is making sure that you are going to teach, because they're pretty on the cuff with the idea that it's like, this isn't a side gig, it's not a backup gig, this is the gig. And so the thing I've noticed is like the performance majors here are all really strong in the areas they're interested in, because the faculty here is really great at like going, what do you want to do with your performance? Let's get you down that path. And so, we'll have some guys that are like killer drum set players, some guys that are really great marimba players, other guys that are really awesome at the marching aspects. And then there's the ed majors that'll come in, and they're super well rounded, they're strong, they're focused. And I would generally put them at the upper part of a studio here, just because of like when it comes to playing in like the band setting, symphony setting, or percussion ensemble setting, or even just their private lessons, they're always like really prepared. My dog's being a jerk. Like there's like they're able to fit in any situation that we need them for in the studio, and that's been an interesting thing to notice. It's like, because we'll have the guy that's like, you're a really great jazz drum set player, but we really can't throw you on like the Burritt Mallet Quartet like we wanted to.
Yeah.
So it just kind of creates interesting situations when it comes to like picking repertoire or like assigning parts in the ensembles. But granted, those guys are going to go out and they're going to graduate and they're never going to play concert marimba again. They're all starting their own jazz bands, playing around Denver and doing stuff like that, and they're doing great.
Yeah.
But I do agree with the comment that the ed program does kind of give you more tools toward what you're looking for, and it doesn't have to just be like, I'm going to go be a teacher. Like, I think some of the best performers I've seen have had the education degree programs.
Yeah, and to add on to that too, like backtracking a little bit, what you said about when you're at Commerce, it's like 99% ed majors. At Capital, the same exact thing. Like, Capital's an ed school, and I think there were like 2 performance majors out of a studio of like 20, and they weren't even the best players. I mean, one of them was really good I'll say one of them was really good, right? But the other guy, I mean, like there weren't a lot of great performance majors coming through, so there was actually less pressure, I think, at Capital to like. I never had a performance major on a pedestal. I was like, most of the Capital people, actually, it's a jazz and education school and a nursing school, but there was like half of the studios are jazz majors, so they're just like playing drum set, and they're actually good mallet players. They can improvise. So I'd probably look up more to a jazz bow than I would a performance guy, right? And so it was a really crazy thing, and I felt no pressure to live up to anybody, and I think that helped. But if you're at Eastman or something, the ed program there is like rigorous. I mean, watching those undergrads go through that, I don't know how they do it. I don't even know how like the undergrad performance majors go through it. 2 years, I'm out. Like, it was hard, man. It was hard. So I think at a school like Eastman, there's a lot more pressure for those ed people. Like, if you want to, because they really don't have time to do what the performance majors are doing and stuff like that. So it's different where you go. But I think going to a small school was probably the best choice for me out front. I didn't deserve to go to a big school. I couldn't play. And so I just wanted to always get to that level, I think. So.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. I mean, I feel like a lot of people, a lot of the really good players start from this, like, yeah, I got into college and I wasn't quite sure what I was doing. Like, yeah. I mean, for me, like, I was so bad at ear training, and like I failed one of my ear training classes. And then for my last year of my DMA that's about to start, like half my assistantship is teaching ear training 1.
Oh, man.
And granted, that's going to be a whole new ball game, but it's just like, yeah, I mean, I've talked to so many people, they're just like, yeah, man, I failed like this jury my first year, or I wasn't sure what I was doing, or I never got into this until I was like a junior. And it's nice to hear that idea of this prodigies going around is not like the norm. Like
no,
yeah, it's all hard work.
And these like the prodigy story, man. The other thing about like whatever that is, those people. The only way that you're going to be a prodigy and get gigs from being a prodigy, let's say, is if you're the top 0.1%.
Right.
If you are the top 10%, you don't matter, because if you're the top 10%, you better be on social media, you better be marketing yourself and meeting people, and if you're not, no one cares about you. Yeah. And that's just the harsh reality of the situation. So, top 0.1%. Maybe you're like. Maybe all you do is practice 16 hours a day. You don't make human contact, but you're so good that people saw one clip of you and you got booked all over the place. That happens, but that's not normal. And I think most of the stories are underdog stories. Like, I didn't start this till I was a senior, and now I'm doing this because I worked so hard and my trajectory surpassed that person next to me. And that's just like the way it goes, I think, in a lot of these cases. So at least that's what I'm holding on to. I'm holding on to hope for that.
I'm buying into it. Yeah, I feel like all these underdog stories, and then I feel like everyone that's been really successful or that is becoming successful, we've all had this moment, like you were saying about going out that night and that guy being like, well, what do you really want to do after you saw Colin Curry play? I know for me it was going to the Soap Percussion Institute in 29 or 10, and like from that week on, I was just like, oh man, no, I want to do this. Like, this is the new thing. Like, everyone has that spark. And I think it's just going after, like, if it's drum corps, that's cool. Go after drum corps. Go do that. Go do a competition. Go, if you want to play with brake drums in the ditch in a forest, do that. Like, whatever floats your boat, man. Like, go get it. But
yeah.
I would like to add to that, because I do remember Caleb before and after he went to the Soap Percussion Institute, because this is around the time where we're talking about Caleb struggling with ear training, just like we all did. I'd never had to learn how to tune anything until college, and I was like, oh my God, my ear is terrible. It still is.
Yes, same.
But my favorite thing will always be Caleb coming back from that with his diatonic set of pitched beer bottles, watching Caleb walk around, like tapping on like the railings of the stairs going, I think that's an F sharp. Or that over there. It's like, have you heard that chair over there? That's definitely an A. Like, Caleb, everything became a percussion instrument, and he had to pitch everything, and that was the funniest thing to me ever.
That's awesome.
I was real pretentious for like 2 months, but I got over it. Now I'm evened out.
One of my favorite things I've ever heard was from one of my friends that I met here, saying that in order to be a good musician, you have to have a healthy amount of pretentiousness within you.
Yeah, you. That's funny. You ascended to a higher plane after seeing that. Now it's funny though. Like, I guess after Chosen Vale, like I went back to Capitol and I was like, I just understand the music, and it was like, no, I had no idea what was going on, man. But it really was funny. Oh my gosh.
There was the time we watched Drew Lang play. Was it Having Never Written a Note for Percussion?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Caleb and I saw that. We're both just like, that was awesome. That was really cool. And the rest of the studio at the time was just like, that was the most boring, awful thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. It is a fine line, man. Like, have you guys ever done any Lachenmann music before?
No.
Do you know his solo Interior 1?
Yes.
And Vic has a video of that up, and I think, oh gosh, is it Compitello playing it or Victor maybe? It's one of those guys, I want to say. Anyways, like, Lachenmann's music is all based on sort of what we would consider noise. Like, everything is played in an extended technique way. So you're scraping marimba bars or doing this, but you're never like really playing the marimba, maybe like a little bit. And the violins are just like making squeaks and stuff. And there's like very detailed ways to make these squeaks happen. But like I still have a hard time with it, And I played a piece like that at Eastman in the New Music Ensemble. And people got offended. Like, I voiced my opinion, not to like the conductor or anything like that, but just amongst like some of our peers. Like, I said, guys, I'm not really into it, And now the performance kind of changed my perception of that. To hear it on a stage and to hear everything. But yeah, I was like, guys, I'm not really into it. People got so offended. And I think like it's such a fine line we walk as like new music people or whatever. there needs to be understanding to people that don't like it, and there needs to be understanding for people who do like it. And I think right now we're in a weird place with that, because we're trying to push things so far, but we're allowed to not like that.
Yeah.
And we're allowed to commission tonal music. That's another thing. We can commission neo-romantic marimba music, and like Sejourné's doing it, and I think it's totally fine, you know. But some people don't, so I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, you really need those people on the either end of the spectrum to push to make the spectrum bigger.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we all have the same dead white guy music over and over and over. Man, yeah, so just kind of in closing, do you have any general, I mean, we've hit all of it before, but any overarching advice for those people maybe just getting into college, or they're in their 4-year program and they're trying to go down this soloist path or this performer path?
I think the first thing you got to do, and this was advice that Colin gave me, was put the music first always. And that's different for everybody, putting the music first. It's whatever you like. And so that alone is a varied statement. I think that you shouldn't start thinking about, let's say, pursuing heavily, like, I am an orchestral musician or I am a soloist. I don't think you should really start doing that until the end of your sophomore year or beginning of your junior year. It's such an arbitrary thing, but if you come into school as a freshman and you're fresh out of high school, your life is going to drastically change in 4 years. And it'll drastically change in 1 year. But when kids get on Instagram or they get on Facebook and they start advertising themselves and they're like 19, it's not that I want to say like you have no business advertising yourself, but I just want to say stop advertising yourself and go practice. You know, go practice first. Put in the hours now. Okay, because later there's always time. Like, you can be 33 years old, you're still young, and you can still get picked up by a management company, and you can still be a soloist if you want to be, or you can still take orchestral auditions until you're 55 years old or 70. When the curtain comes down, hopefully you're 55 and not 70. They're not going to hire a 70-year-old, right? There are some limitations, but by and large, that's what I think. Like, experiment with different music. Play everything up front, and then start to just do this later, and then map all your goals, map your grad school, or if you don't, you might not go to grad school, map all of that to what you want to do. You know, you're not going to go to Rice if you want to be a soloist, and you're not going to go to USC if you want to be a soloist, probably. You know, you're going to go to a different type of program. And I don't know. I just think like a lot of us are putting the cart before the horse now. I honestly think I'm kind of doing it a little soon. Like, I feel like I have so much musical development that I still need to go do, and I need to practice Bach, but I don't have time right now because I'm too busy like self-promoting for 4 hours a day and practicing like 4 hours a day, you know? So yeah, I don't know, man. I just think, music first, figure out what you love, experience a lot of things, pay money to go see things, and then start making decisions.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's all. Yeah, it's all such good stuff. And I mean, the thing is, it's always funny. Like, I knew you were going to say all those things, and I think people listening know you're going to say all those things, but it's nice to just hear yet another person reiterate, yes, there's no secret. Like, you just put in the footwork. Yeah, there's no YouTube method for get your management company skills now and 10 easy steps.
Right.
It's like, it's always the same. And
the other thing about it too, though, I guess a little contrary to what I just said, is once you do start deciding to focus, the first thing you do is forget about your weaknesses. Like, I know I'm never going to go play a full cello suite, and I've accepted that. And maybe in 5 years, after I've slowly built my weaknesses up, I'll go do that. But the minute that I decided I want to be a soloist, which was like at 20, 21 years old, it was like, I'm not going to practice those things now because I'm on a path. And I should have practiced those things the 2 years prior, but I was practicing other things and being varied in other ways. So I do think the first thing you do is think about, once you make your decision, how are you going to break through the glass ceiling? You're not going to break through the glass ceiling by building all your skills. You're going to build really specific skills. Kaboom, there goes the ceiling, and then you can bring the rest of the things through the roof, I think. Now, maybe a lot of people will disagree with that, but...
Yeah, makes sense to me.
So, yeah. Whether you have the fastest hands ever, like Casey, or you know.
It's stupid. Sometimes in lessons he'll do something. I'm just like, oh man, what's that?
Yeah.
That's not supposed to happen.
Humans can't do that.
Yeah.
Don't write music for that.
All right. Well, just a quick wrap. Yeah, thanks again, and we'll catch anyone listening next time. And thanks again to Cameron Leach for hanging out with us for an hour or so.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.